Trust the process. Pain is power. All great things take time. I am unbreakable. Unbreakable.
Welcome to the Unbreakables podcast. I am your host, Jay, and this is my brother and my co-host, Gift the Poet.
Episode 22, we have the honor to sit down with the CEO and the COO of the Billion Dollar Body. They've been doing amazing things. They're helping businessmen prosper in their health, their relationships, and in their wealth. They've also partnered up with a very good organization to help kids. They've raised over $40,000 across the country. Make sure you check out Nicholas's book, The Modern Day Businessman, Success Without Sacrifice. We'd like to welcome Nicholas and Amanda Bayerle.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's really cool to be in the office and you guys come here with such great expertise. I've been on a lot of shows, podcasts, and what you guys have done is this is a really good show to be a part of. And I remember we were just talking about my weight loss story. And when I was first coming up, I had no Facebook ad, I didn't have a show to listen to put in my ears and transform my life. Yet one kid with one action and one statement changed my life forever. And so we can create those moments together. And thanks to everyone.
Absolutely. First and foremost, we just want to say thank you guys. And we'll let you guys all know this is our first time having a couple.
We're very excited.
And just as I mentioned earlier, our goal of this show is to dive into your guys' story. Basically, let's start from childhood and then we'll transition into what led you guys to success today. And we really want to highlight the highs, the lows, failures, adversities, and your perseverance.
Awesome. I will go first. I actually had a really awesome childhood. I feel really blessed. I was able to do all sorts of school. So I was actually homeschooled until 4th grade. And then I eventually went to Christian school, and then I did public school, and then I did online school to graduate early. So I had amazing parents that always instilled confidence in me, self-esteem, that I could do anything I put my mind to. So I felt really blessed in that way. I had some issues with my brother and stuff, that he was definitely a troublemaker. So always, in the principal's office for him. And so I felt like for me, I would say my biggest struggle, and also an advantage, I think, for, people out there that might relate to this, is being a perfectionist. And so that's probably been my biggest struggle growing up, is once you are placed in a box, then you feel like you have to be that person. So when everyone expects you to be perfect all the time, you then develop this identity that you can't ever make a mistake and you can never let anyone down. And so, I did really well in school, but I actually was like, I'm called to do something bigger, and wanted to go out and travel the world and do missions work. So I actually, at 17 years old, moved out and traveled the world starting at 15 years old. And so that's what really led me into that type of, arena, and then then I met Nicholas and we got into the business world. But it first started out, I was like, you know what, I want to do something bigger. I don't want to just go to college. I don't want to just, live a mediocre life. I knew I was called to do something bigger in this world. And so I wanted to chase that.
And what I love about her story is it's so different than mine.
Absolutely.
And it relates to other people. She actually has a talk that she gave all these different places called No More Mrs. Nice Girl. Because it was all these things that she was struggling with. And for everyone out there that thinks they don't have a rags to riches story, or they don't have a big enough weight loss story, or they don't have a great relationship story, and those are the 3 categories in business that you can really talk about, know that your story relates with people that my story doesn't relate with. I was held back for a long time from sharing my story, not just because I was scared to get judged. Obviously, I was scared to be judged for being overweight, scared to be judged for living in a house with termites that were inside and mounds were inside the house. I got a lung infection because we had mold growing in the house. I was embarrassed by those things. But on top of that, I thought, well, isn't there people that have better stories than me? A better weight loss story. They're more fit than me now. They make more money than me. They've been married longer than me. They have more kids than me. There's always someone who's like gone through more adversity and come out the other side. But for me, like, I grew up in a normal home at first. I thought my parents were married until I was at school, 2nd grade, and I was like, yeah, my parents got divorced. I went home and they're like, no, like, we didn't get divorced. We were never married. We broke up. It's like, oh, great. My parents weren't even married. I didn't even know it. And they broke up at 4 years old when I was 4. They weren't 4, of course.
Let's make that clear.
Yeah, listen, just to settle the right, like, just if anyone's wondering, I was 4. Parents broke up. My stepmom moved in like the same day that my mom moved out, which was really weird to feel like this pressure to call this other lady mom.
Wow.
And to have this different house, and it really messed up my dynamic growing up because my dad, and typically the dad's like this disciplinarian, like the guy that's stern, and you know, if you come home from school, it's like sit on your bed and wait for your dad to come home, and like that's when you know things are gonna go bad. And then you have the mom who's typically like the comforter, like come here, like let me nurture you, and like to carry you in the stomach the whole time. And I had those separate. So the problem was my dad was this disciplinary that was trying to like push me, but then I could always run away to my mom's house. So at 7 years old, because of this like pressure that I felt, and I remember my dad actually telling me one day that he had to pay to see me. It's like, oh, your mom makes me pay to see you. Now we know it is child support. But like I thought, like, my mom's such a jerk. So now like when I'm with my dad, I have to hate my mom. And when I'm with my mom, I have to hate my dad because they're jerks and they don't like each other. So I'm living this life where I'm like one kid in one area, another kid in another, and anytime I get disciplined, I could run to my mom. And then I never had this way to be able to reconnect with my dad because I could just run away. So I wrote my first suicide letter when I was 7. I was like, you know what? If I'm such a burden, if it was so much hassle and everyone gets so frustrated, I'd rather just die. And I remember my family actually finding that letter. They had no clue how to communicate or what to say. They were like, I don't know what to say to you. I just know that we found this and that's it. We went back to normal life. And I just remember like always having anxiety. I literally had diarrhea every single day in 3rd grade. My brother was running away from the house, and I had no conscious way of knowing why is this happening. They'd send me to counseling, and they'd try to like probe. They thought like there was abuse in my family or something. There was no abuse in my family. I just had massive anxiety, and I had no clue why. And then it just was raised by the system that we were put in of school, where now I teach people, if you want to get the most out of this interview, you want to take notes and you want to interact. Be like, oh, like, you know, be loud, be excited. Even if you're like by yourself, like be like saying the words that I'm saying. Yes. But in school, you get in trouble. If I shout out without raising my hand, then I'm like a bad kid. I get kicked out of class for this stuff, but that actually increases your retention of learning. So I was all interactive, and I was getting in trouble by my teachers, and I asked to go to the restroom because I had diarrhea every single day, which is not fun to talk about. And then the teacher would come down and knock on the door and leave the class, and then that would give me more anxiety, and like I felt embarrassed. And so I went through all that, and then it got to the tipping point when I was 13 years old, and I was like, you know what? I want the approval of my father. I'm going to give him everything I've got. Like, I'm going to tell him that I'm going to want to be a pro motocross racer, which is what I had done up to that point. And that's when he's going to finally love and accept me. Like, as a young boy, all I wanted was my dad to accept me. Every time I'd skateboard, every time I play basketball, every time I ride motocross, I would think in my head, what if my dad's watching? And I'd push myself to the point where I'd actually hurt myself sometimes because I just wanted him to be proud.
You wanted his
and I wasn't getting that. So I finally tell him, Dad, I want to be the best motocross racer in the world. We're going to do this. I'm going to get a tutor, whatever. And he looks at me and he goes, Nicholas, you'll never be the best. And just being a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, it just crushed everything inside of me. I didn't talk to my dad for my last 3 years of high school. I gained 60 pounds. That's when I got really overweight. And that's when I just locked myself away. And most people don't know, I put over 365 days played on one video game because that was my new life. I had a rebirth into a virtual reality, which was a video game, and I created a whole new identity there and lost everything that I had on Earth. I had no vision. Everything for my life was stopped right there. I could have died and I wouldn't have cared.
So during that time, you had stopped racing?
Stopped racing, got a 1.8 GPA. I graduated. I went to summer school every single year and took extra credit classes just to graduate because I didn't show up. I didn't really hang out with any of my friends. I was too embarrassed and self-conscious of my body and the way that I looked and everything. I was so self-conscious. I live in San Diego. You know the pressure of it's summer break. What do people do during the summer? They go to the pool, and I had 2 options. Wear a shirt at the pool, and then people are like, why are you wearing a shirt? Or don't wear a shirt, and they're like, why are you fat and pasty white? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So there was a lot of pressure with that, and it just I was embarrassed of the life I had created. I didn't want to see my dad because he was right. I was not taking care of myself. I wasn't active, and I just didn't want to hear it.
So do you think that hearing those words from your dad telling you that you're not going to make it, do you think that was the tipping point for you to just shut everything off, everything you worked hard for up until that day, completely?
That was totally the tipping point. Yet it was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was a lot of things, and if that wouldn't have happened, something else would have happened to make me stop. Like, at the end of the day, it was me. And one epiphany that I had since then, just because I want people to think back, like, I've been telling my story for a long time. When I first started telling my story, it was so scary. I would cry, I couldn't even get it out, I was just so nerve-wracking. I was shaking when I would tell it. And then I went to a therapist, and I started going back in time, and she was walking me through these times that I was going through. So I just wanted to see, like, could I get a breakthrough from this? And I realized that my dad always pushed me really, really hard. He pushed me in motocross, and these were things that scared me. And I would cry, and like my dad said, "We're not leaving the motocross track until you do all these jumps." And I was like, do I really think that my dad would hurt me? And I was like, no, I don't think he like actually wanted to hurt me. I think he loved me. I just don't think he knew how to express it. And so I thought, wow, that my whole life I thought my dad didn't believe in me. But if he didn't want to hurt me, the only reason he pushed me is because he believed in me, and I never believed in me. And it was all of a sudden this like huge epiphany that, oh my gosh, I've been the one who doesn't believe in me, and I created this reality that I created, being overweight, shutting my dad out. I mean, imagine having your dad knock on the door of your mom's house for hours, and you sitting there like with pillows over your head, just trying to tune it out and act like you weren't home. And he's screaming and yelling and knocking and screaming, yelling and knocking, and doing that for like 3 years. Really difficult to do.
And I do have to ask you, because obviously you were isolated for so long and you were building negative habits, such as probably the food you were eating wasn't the greatest. Gamers have a bad rap for eating junk food a lot. How did you break out of those habits?
Yeah, so it was one kid. This is why I said that life can change in one moment. It could be one sentence. I didn't have Facebook ads. I didn't have it downloadable. I didn't have YouTube. I mean, YouTube was around. I just didn't know how to use it. And I remember one kid, he was a boxer. He came to my school, and he pulled out a bag of fruit. At this point, you have like a cinnamon roll with chocolate milk, and then you have like orange chicken every single day. Then you go home and you have mini corn dogs and potato skins. That's what I knew. So I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Why did you bring this fruit to school? And he looked at me, and I was scared. Realized I'd been wearing the same sweatshirt every day for the entire year. 110 degrees, same sweatshirt. It was faded around the hood because the sun had faded out like everything in the sweatshirt. But it's the only thing that made me feel comfortable. So he pulls out his bag of fruit and he goes, I'm a boxer, and my trainer wants me to weigh in at the correct weight and be at the highest performance possible. And just that one sentence, I was like, wow, you can follow a plan and it will help you lose the weight. And I could say it's because I want to be high performer, because I was kind of embarrassed to say I want to lose weight. I went home, never talked to the kid again. Still to this day, I hope you reach out to me one day. And I lost 60 pounds in 6 months, all by myself. No help, no nothing, just that one moment motivated me, and I just started eating a little bit less, moving a little bit more, too scared to go to the gym. Never went to the gym the whole weight loss journey. I was too embarrassed. I was like, you have to be fit to go to the gym. So I've always struggled with this self-consciousness of getting on stage, getting on podcasts, showing my story, my before and after, being good enough. These are all things that I still struggle with and struggled with before. Yet I found ways and tools to overcome them, which we'll talk about.
That's awesome.
And Nicholas, something you said earlier, you noticed that if your dad didn't believe in you, he wouldn't push you towards that fear. What's your perspective on fear now?
So fear, some of the guys ask, we actually ask our guys in the group, we go like, what's the number one fear that you want to overcome right now? And what I found is that a lot of fears, it's okay to be fearful of things. Except for what I did find is that you're born with two core fears, fear of loud noises and fear of falling as a baby. Those are the ones that you like are birthed out with, right? And then all these other ones are learned fears. Some of them keep you from dying, but most of them actually keep you from living. And what I saw is like, what are the fears that I have that keep me from dying? And what are the fears that I also have that actually keep me from living the purpose and what I'm supposed to do? And I can make a decision to actually write those things down on my goal list. You can go through my notebook right now. It's like, okay, what are the things that I'm fearful to do in my business right now? Like, okay, well, I'm scared to have all my mentors and people I look up to be at an event that's not mine, and I have to sell from stage something that's mine, and they're all going to like see how well it does. So I put it in my goal list. Speak at where all my mentors are and sell something from stage that I have to create beforehand, and they're going to see how well it does. Because that's not keeping me from dying doing that. It's keeping me from living that fear of going out there. And self-sabotage is so real for everyone out there. Amanda's seen me do this forever. Is like, my parents, when I was 14 and I got overweight, we got contacted by Disney Channel to do a show with me, which was so random. They were trying to get me in there. I sabotaged the entire thing.
How did that happen?
I have no clue.
It
Really?
just happened.
Yeah, like I was doing things in school and stuff, but they were calling, they were trying to get me to come to these auditions and stuff. And I was like, Mom, don't answer the phone. I don't want to go, because I was so afraid of being judged, being looked at for being overweight. It was so overwhelming that I sabotaged the opportunity. And I've done that over and over again throughout my life. And I found that like those fears got me to make decisions daily, and those decisions were shaping my life.
That is awesome. So to go back, you lost 10 pounds a month. You lost 60 pounds in 6 months. That's very impressive. That takes a lot of
Very,
willpower.
very impressive.
All because you saw a boxer eating fruit. So what happened after that? What changed after those 6 months?
Yeah, so that's when I was like, I got shredded. I got like 6-pack. I started surfing. Like I felt really good, and I realized like, wow, I'm still not that happy. And that was a really interesting thing that I'd go through. And successful people always tell you like money won't make you happy, fame won't make you happy, fitness won't make you happy, like the body you want will make you happy, unless you already have a foundation of happiness that you're building upon. If you think something, a destination is going to make you happy, it won't. Tony Robbins says that progress equals happiness. Yet I was at the point where I was like, well, try me. I'm going to go make money and I'll go figure it out myself. Like I'm going to go get fit and I'll figure it out myself. And so at that point I kind of got like in this lost area of like, why am I doing all of this? Like I'm fit now, but now what? Now what am I supposed to do? And that was a really scary place to be. Like I stopped working out, I stopped eating well again, and I just had no purpose and direction in my life. And I had a really interesting encounter for me specifically, where I had never been to church, never believed that God existed or was real. I never even thought about it. I just thought church was what women went to go do while the men stayed at home. And like my dad would never go to church, but my stepmom did. My mom never went to church, like none of that stuff. And I was just like searching for something bigger. So I started like trying to do anything I could. I started pulling out Ouija boards. I started watching scary movies. I tried going to church. Like I did all these things, and I had this one life-altering moment at a church actually that literally felt like I got a whole like new heart put in me. And all of a sudden I had this feeling like I wanted to serve people. I wanted to live differently. I started having these like good convictions where I was like, I don't want to do that, and I want to do this. And it was like internal. And all of a sudden I shifted my life forever. I started serving people on the side of the road. I started giving to people. I started pouring into myself. I started saying, how can I serve the world? The same way that Amanda talked about, and that's how we met, is in this like, we both were on this trajectory from her, this perfect family that was like raising her up that still had problems, perfectionism, all these things. Me and a broken family, we came to this place where we're like, we want to do big things. We want to serve the world, and we collided at that moment. And now we've continued to grow together.
That is beautiful. I just got the chills just by you saying that. Like that is beautiful, and I commend you guys both.
But she's seen me through this whole journey, and I want to like show this perspective. Is like
Absolutely.
I flopped after that. Like 18 years old, I'm all like ready to go take over the world. 19 years old, we get engaged, and she's 17 at the time, or just turned 18.
So what is your perspective? So prior to that, you guys were in high school. You were
I went to her
overweight.
graduation.
Yeah.
too.
So Nicholas came to my high school graduation. So I
Before
always
we were
knew
dating.
that like I would, probably get married young, but definitely was not thinking 18 years old. But we met, and then quickly we're like, we know we're supposed to be together. So we got married, and then after that, it's like, okay, well, like we need money, right? So like we were just like, trusting God and like doing missions work, and like Nicholas has such a giving heart. He literally gives everything away to everyone. Like the shirt off his back, he's given to homeless people. And I'm like, why aren't you wearing a shirt? Like, what's going
Just give it
on?
away.
Yeah. So we got into business, and we actually joined a network marketing company. And that was an awesome, I think that's such a great starting point for so many entrepreneurs out there. It's just getting, a business model that works and just implementing the strategy instead of having to create everything. And so that's what we did. We did that for over a year, and, we were successful with it, and then we lost it all. And then we kind of just got into a place of like, okay, well, we just kind of felt like failures in a way. And that's when Nicholas we had to get money. Like we were totally broke living in San Diego. And that's when he had to start cleaning carpets with his dad. And, that just kind of put him in a low place because, when you're, cleaning carpets, you're making like literally $1,200 a month. And then I'm working and hustling and trying to still do his business thing. it was definitely tough because, you know, I wanted him to like step up and, you know, want to do the business with me, but he's working, you know, 10 hours a day making like no money and, you know, getting treated like crap because you're just a cleaner at someone's house. And then he, you know, he wanted an outlet, so he like started golfing every single day because he's, you know, very addictive personality. So then he started golfing every single day because that made him feel like purposeful. And so he got into that, and then, you know, I was going to the business events all the time. I was networking, I was doing things, and, you know, I'd be like, Nicholas, you want to come with me? He's like, no, I don't want to go. So he kind of got into that, like,
Depression.
yeah, in a way, and, you know, depression from business, like he just felt like inadequate, and I'd be like, you want to come in? And he's like, no, I don't want to pay for parking. Like, it's like $20. And I'd be like, okay. And then, you know, people would be like, are you married, Amanda? Like, where's your husband at? And I'm like, oh, he's golfing, you know, he's doing stuff. And then finally I went to an event called Thrive. It's a guy named Cole Hatter. And I was at that event, and through this whole time, like, Nicholas and I started, like, you know, we're still in love. We're still working together. It was just like this, you know, kind of lull phase in a way. And I'm like, I'm going to invest in this mastermind. It's $5,000, but I feel like I'm supposed to do it. And we had just paid off like our credit card bill, and we were totally debt free, you know, on our credit card. And then I was like, well, I have $5,000 on my credit card, so I can buy this thing. And the guy, Cole's dad, was like, Amanda, you should probably call your husband and tell him you're about to spend $5,000. And, you know, we had such a great relationship. I was like, I don't need to tell him, like, he's okay. Like, and they're like, no, you need to call him. So I was like, babe, I'm investing $5,000 in this thing. And he's like, okay, well, if you think that's what we're supposed to do, do it. And so we invested in it, and then that's when, like, really everything changed. That's when he got sparked to, you know, really go after business again and realize, like, I don't want to be, you know, running this carpet cleaning company making, like, no money, because he actually had to run it for his dad because his dad got in an accident. So he was doing something, you know, super helpful and giving to his dad. But that's what really changed everything for us and gave him that community. I think that's what we really lacked, and I think that's why we've created a community, is when men, you know, struggle in their life, they get isolated, they isolate themselves, and then there's no one around them to encourage them, to keep them accountable. And so that's kind of why we've created what we've created.
And I do have to ask you guys, because oftentimes in society it's very common for couples in times like that, in the dark times, to build resentment, to kind of bicker and fight. What were some things that you guys did to prevent that?
Well, we always connected on, you know, just every single day. I think some people like spend a lot of time apart from each other. We always had quality time, and that's one of our love languages. But I tell like women all the time, like, if your husband isn't, well, one, you can't control another person. So if you want to get in a relationship, like, know that you will never be able to control the other person. Just give up that control. You know, you just have to love the person for where they're at and, you know, not try to change them. And so I just tried to be the person that inspired him. So I was like, okay, instead of like building resentment, because he is working really hard, instead of building resentment, I'm just going to go and be the example. And so that's what I chose to do during that time, and to keep encouraging him. So like I tell women all the time, like, if your, you know, partner isn't, you know, being the hero that you want them to be or whatever, you have to encourage them, because that's what's going to make them do it. You know, you tearing them down isn't going to get them anywhere. So that's what I tell them.
Did you ever feel during that time of his resistance where you just wanted to give up and quit?
I don't think so. I think that, you know, from childhood, like, when my parents, like, instilled just like never give up, and I just had this like drive. I always felt that I was like on the right track. You know, I always felt like we're eventually going to be successful. We actually made a thing when we were 18 and going to all these network marketing events. We're not going to have kids until we make $1 million.
Wow.
And so we didn't know how we were going to make it or anything like that, and which is really cool. We actually did it, you know. And so I think that you know, we just had a like-minded vision during that time. Our actions, obviously, where we were like, oh, maybe he'll become like a professional golfer. Like, I don't know. So I was always encouraging him to do that. And now everyone's like, dang, Nicholas, you were such a good golfer. How did you do that? And he's like, oh, I spent, you know, every day at the driving range.
It's an interesting thing, because I feel like a lot of people go through this. This is like real life stuff. And we got hit in the mouth with network marketing, lost everything. And I was going after all these things, and what I always tell people, and this was so clear to me when someone said this, it just like resonated with me so well. I was like, okay, you have all these passions. People are like, you can make your passions profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I bought a $4,000 coffee machine. I paid like cafes $150 an hour. I'm like all in when I do things to be the best coffee maker ever. And I was like, that's what I want to be. I'm so passionate about it. I buy 10 pounds of coffee a week just to practice doing all the latte art.
He's still, if you ever go to like a really nice cafe and they do like the latte art,
I'll
he can
pour it.
do it better.
Oh yeah, I do.
He's amazing.
I always
yes.
ask to pour, so I did that for a while, and I was like, okay, this is really not going to make any money. I'm doing like garage sales, not good. So I went to the next thing, and I started going after my motocross dream again that I gave up when I got overweight. I'm like, I'm going to go after this. I need to settle this. Before I bought a motorcycle, I watched 5 hours of tape every single day. Every day I watched 5 hours of head cams on motocross, so I'd like, my mind only would know that speed. And then that drove us into debt. And that's like when we lost the network marketing company. And now we're in debt. And I realized that like we got kicked out of our house. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not single. I have responsibilities. It's time to step up. So I sold the bike and I'm like, I'm going to go carpet clean and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I had this like, all this free time from the motocross and I put it into golf. And then I golfed every single day and I hit 240 golf balls every single day. Plus I golfed like 4 days a week. So I'm spending all this time doing these things, these outlets, because as a man, like my personality, I felt like all these outlets, I was progressing. So I quickly progressed and it made me feel purposeful, like I was being challenged. And someone told me, he goes, you find your destiny and what you're supposed to do when your passions and your responsibilities overlap. And I was like, oh my goodness. I've been so frustrated because I'm passionate about all these things, but none of them are taking care of my responsibilities. They're not providing for my current relationship or my future family. They're not making the impact that I'm actually supposed to make. And I was able to project, is golf going to get me where I want to be? No. Is motocross going to get me where I want to be? No. Can I do it for fun? Yes. Do I deserve it right now? No. So it's time to go out there and like build a business so I can have the fun that I want and not think that every single thing is the same urgency and importance. It's like, what is my responsibility? The impact in the men that we want to create. That's my responsibility. The income for my family and the house that I want to buy and the protection that I want to give my family and the stability. That's my responsibility. What am I passionate about? Speaking and coaching and transforming. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Where my passions and my responsibilities overlapped, that's where I found what I was supposed to take action on. And I was able to eliminate all these other things for a time. Now I still surf once a week and I have fun. Yet for like 3-4 years, like all we did was focus down on these things, gain the skill sets, come together in a different way we had never done before. And whatever you focus on grows. So we were focusing on family, we were focusing on business, we were focusing on that impact, and now we've been able to do that and grow that.
Now, Nicholas, I do have to ask you because I feel viewers at home, they have trouble understanding everything works in temperance. And like you said, you surf about once a week because that's your fun, that's your outlet.
Totally.
But it was probably very difficult to give up the things that you love in order to really chase your passions and to chase your responsibility. So what do you tell someone at home who's dealing with addiction, who's dealing with handling things in temperance?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing to do is there's a quote that says, first you learn how to play someone else's music, and then you learn how to play your own. Like you write your own music after that. So at first, it's really difficult to be like, what life do I want to live? Like, what do I want out of life? What are my goals? It's difficult because we don't really have a vision for it. We're like, well, I don't want to keep playing video games. I don't want to keep playing app games. I don't want to keep doing cocaine. I don't want to keep drinking every single. I want to stop binge eating. Whatever that thing is for whoever's out there, it's like we all have these things that we want to get rid of. Yet if we don't replace it with something, then we just have this deep dark void that we just go back and end up like sabotaging. Because again, we talked about whatever you focus on grows, or whatever you focus on increases. In motocross, when you be riding, if there was a rock in the middle of the track, they'd always tell you like, look where you want to go, not what you want to get away from. Because if you look at that rock and you're afraid to hit it, you naturally gravitate towards it. And then you end up hitting it, rather than focusing on the actual route that you want to go. So problem is most people want to get rid of addiction, all these different things that they want to get away from, and then they end up thinking about it all the time until it creates, like whatever you think about, you create desire for. So you're thinking about like, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to eat this ice cream, I don't want to eat this ice cream, I don't want to eat this ice cream. And then you're like, oh, like ice cream. And then you're like, all right, I'm just going to eat it this one time and then I'll get it done and then I'll finally like quit it forever. And then the next day, like something triggers it again. And so what I found is that whoever I surround myself with, I become. They say birds of a feather flock together, but also they found that geese that fly in a V can fly 70% further on the same work and effort as a goose that flies alone. So I realized like when I was 20 years old and Amanda was 18 and we were like, we want to make $1 million before we have kids, that was just like a dream. But at the time, I thought people that made $10,000 a month in their business were gods. I was like too scared to go up and ask them like, hey, can I take a picture with you? I was like, oh, I don't know if I can talk to these people. They're crazy. You know, and then all of a sudden I got around these people that were like, oh yeah, Nicholas, like, I don't eat breakfast unless we make $10,000 before we eat. And I was like, huh. I was like, let me try that. So like 3 days I didn't eat, and I was like, maybe I need to scale back my goals a little bit. So, but that type of person that I'm around, I realized that when I was making $1,000 a month, people were making 10, I was the worst in the room. And I was like, huh, what if I got around people that made 100 million and I made 10? I'm like, I'd still be the worst person in the room, yet I've now adapted to the environment that I'm in. And I see in gangs, right? I talk about this in my book. Gangs, how do you get accepted? You steal, you beat people up, you do whatever you need to do to be loved and accepted by the community environment that you're in. And all I have to do is change the environment. When I first joined Thrive Mastermind, it was all about giving. All of a sudden now, if you loved giving, great, it's a great mastermind. If you don't love giving and you just want attention and you want that like accolade and you want to be like
The status.
the status. What do you do to get status? You give. So even if your motivation isn't that pure yet, you still give because that's how you get attention. So when I got myself grafted into a community, when other people graft themselves into a good community, they're like, how do I get love, acceptance, like these things that everyone wants? And the only way they can get it, in, let's say in my community, is if they're healthier, in better relationship, giving to people without expecting anything in return, and building a business that's actually creating impact. Just like right now, we're impacting the men, we're taking money and we're giving it to the kids, so the kids get fixed before they get to us. So we're like putting ourselves out of business, right? They already know how to live life before they get to us. So like now all of a sudden, this is how the guys are like, oh, I want love and acceptance and I want recognition. Well, how do you get it? Like you go be a three-dimensional businessman. And like, it's so interesting. So graft yourself into a community and look at people that have the life that you want. What did they do? How can you get around them? For me, I looked at people like Cole Hatter, like he has family, he makes good money. What are his goals? What did he do? And I started doing that for myself. Then after I started building, having some success, I'm like, great. Now that I know how to play his music, how do I learn how to write my own? Come up with my own goals, and what do I want my personal life to look like?
Yeah, so you basically would cut the learning curve in half and learn from their failures.
Yeah, and their successes. You know, it's like, I can't tell you, like, this is so interesting for me because I know that it's so easy to want to just go discover things on your own. So it's like, okay, great, go get a ship, and you don't actually know if the Earth's flat or round, which actually some people still think the Earth's flat, so sorry if that's you. But there's still land on the other side of the ocean. So you can either go take what other people have found, and you can go figure it out through what they discover, or you can get a ship, and you can go sail across the ocean by yourself, build the ship by yourself as well. Don't use any schematics or blueprints, and don't use a boat that's already been built before. Go build the boat yourself, figure out how to get lights and freezers and all this stuff, or you can allow mentors and people that have already gone before you, what we say is allow their ceiling to become your floor. So now, like, for my guys, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn all this different stuff and all these mentors, and I'm like, okay, here's everything I know. Take it, and now my ceiling, where I'm at, where I'm trying to break through, is where you're starting to build upon. So it's like you have the opportunity. What costs more? You know, it's like opportunity costs cost way more than actual expense, right? Than the investment. Just tell people, like, you invest $10,000 into a program, and if it makes you $100,000 that year, it didn't cost you money. It made you 90 grand, right? But if you don't invest and you make 40,000 that year, now you lost the difference.
Yeah.
But so many people are so afraid to invest in themselves because they have that initial investment, that pain. And they don't look at the pain of missed opportunity. I've always found that successful people have more pain for missed opportunity than the actual failure.
That is deep.
I do have to ask you guys as well. You guys just have the entrepreneur mindset as a couple. It's very refreshing to be around. What are your thoughts? Because I know you went to Christian school. You had a taste of the homeschooling. You were in public school. What are you guys' thoughts on formal education versus self-education?
That's a great one.
I've obviously seen other people as along with myself. I went to school because I needed like more structure and everything like that because my mom was homeschooling two other kids, and I needed more help. So I think I think school can be good for some, kids. But I think for Nicholas, it would have been so amazing for him to actually be homeschooled because he just was, not a personality type that liked to sit down in a seat and like listen and like not, yell out and that type of thing. So, and, not as structured as me. So I think it's different for everyone, but I think that we're going to raise our kids in some type of like more like Montessori type of learning where, they can learn from actually doing this stuff because like what did we really use that much that we learned like after, second grade or something? Like we don't really use much. We read and we write and the basic stuff, the basic math stuff. So as an entrepreneur, I think that, having your kids actually learn from doing stuff is so much better and learning, how they learn like kinesthetically, audibly, like tailoring stuff towards because everyone's different. And I don't believe in just like one system for one person.
Yeah, so for me, this might not be that popular actually. Right now, I believe there's a lot of people that just hate on the school system because it's like, it doesn't prepare kids for their future and all these different things. Yet if you don't have a different plan and structure and discipline outside of that, I'm like, you staying at home and not doing anything and the kid just like not getting human interaction and not getting put into sports and the kid not being challenged. I'm like, it's better to do things that aren't that productive, like with their time. So like, let's say it's someone working in a business. I'd rather have them, if they're sitting in their office doing nothing all day because they don't have the best form of action to take, I'd rather have them do their best and do what they can with what they have for a certain amount of time. So I think that having discipline, like I look at people in college right now, like they just kind of like, they don't really know what they want to do, so they kind of just half-ass everything, and then they kind of get out, and then they wish they would have used like their schooling more. And I'm like, prosper where you're planted. I have so many little like younger kids on Instagram that follow me that always reach out to like, my grades in 8th grade have gotten so much better since I started following you. And I'm like, great. I'm not like, forget the school system. I'm like, no, that's where you're at right now. So you should do well where you're at, because if you don't do well where you're at right now, that's going to bleed into the next thing you do in the future. And I didn't know that. When I was in school, I'm there, so I might as well do really well. And I believe that a lot of things I did learn in school, I'm glad I learned English. Like, I'm glad I learned math. I'm glad I learned these different things so I could learn about life. Now, could it be done better? If you can do it better, then yeah, do that. But if it's just going to be like, yeah, we're going to just not really learn and we're just going to hang out and do whatever, I'm like, no, you might as well be in school and like actually use your time to like grow and expand that brain. For us, we're probably going to be doing like a lot of interactive things, trying to take my kid out to learn different stuff with me. But I also there's things that I don't know. Like I don't remember algebra that well or like all these different things. I want him to learn from like a book and a teacher and an expert that also understands different personalities of human beings. And I think that right now is like revamping what we need to learn and having kids be understood so that they can be empowered and not like shut down. People always say it's like, the schools are like prisons, right? Like you put them in, like they do this, the bell rings, they go out. Yeah, and they prepare you for prison. I'm like, I don't know.
They're programmed.
Yeah, programmed for it. I don't know, but I do think that we could put more focus on it because you think this is not a positive thing, so sorry. Yet when we first colonized America, we'd go in and there would be Indians, right? Like American Indians. And basically what they would do is they would take the kids and they would put them into boarding schools. These are the first boarding schools ever created. And they would take them away from their family. And they wouldn't allow them to wear any of the clothes, like celebrate any of the things, and they would completely separate them from their family. And their goal was that in one generation, they'd become Americans. So now they don't know anything besides what they've been taught. Now think about what happens to their kids. Their kids have no clue Native American traditions, like everything that they had done for thousands of years is now erased in one generation. And I look at that negative side of it and I go, oh wow, like if right now we help the kids, like 25% of kids in America have no father, up to 80% in some communities, right? So I'm like, if we can empower these kids now to learn, be empowered, be understood, how long is it going to take to shift the world? Not very long at all. Because if it worked for the negative in one generation, it can work for the positive in one generation as well. It's pretty crazy.
That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
very powerful. And you purchased that mastermind, taking it a little back again, $5,000 you spent on the card. Did you ever think that Nicholas would be sharing the stage with people such as Tony Robbins, as Russell Brunson, as Lewis Howes? Because you're doing that now, and you always told yourself at 18 that you guys were going to make that million. But did you think that it would happen the way it's been happening?
I don't know if it happened the way I thought it would happen, but Nicholas, I just knew he was like so different. Like he was just on a whole nother level, like spiritually, like his mind, like when I met him, I was like, dude, I don't know what this guy has, but like I want it. Like he was just next level, so passionate about everything he did, just all in. And so I knew he would be extremely successful, and that's why I never was like, discouraging him. I just knew that everyone goes through times, and I think as like a couple, it's like when you're strong, sometimes the reason you're strong is because the other person needs it, and then vice versa. Sometimes you need the help and they're the strong one. And so I think during that time, that's kind of what happened to us. But I'm just so proud of him. Like every day, I'm just like, oh my gosh, and I just love supporting him. So.
Yeah, because it's beautiful because you were the one that was pushing the masterminds, and now some of the biggest masterminds, you're on those stages. So it's amazing.
And she was always a big encouragement for everyone listening. I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I'm at today without her. First off, just getting married gave me responsibility. If I didn't have that, I would have just done enough to get by. I would have sold a few things, I would have dug a few holes, just to be able to go surf and have fun. And I was always about improvement, but I would have been surfing, motocross, coffee, all these things that didn't really build any type of legacy or empire. A king takes dominion and has things that he owns. And I wasn't going to be a king, and she wasn't going to be a queen if I didn't have that. So that was the first thing, was the responsibility piece. I didn't even think about making money before then. I was like a nomad. I was like, I'd show up places, no plane flight, and I'd be like, well, we'll figure it out. Now, with someone else, I can't just be like this person that's putting that on her, that stress. And then now with a kid on the way, I'm like, man, I can't do, that's another form of responsibility. And then when I would go speak, I had this problem of beating myself up. And I'm sure a lot of people out there, there's a good quote that for anyone out there that feels like they're an imposter, imposters don't struggle with imposter syndrome. Real imposters. So real imposters, they actually show up and they don't even know. They just act like they're good at everything, but they don't even think about am I an imposter? So if you're even having that thought, that means you don't have imposter syndrome. Because I had these problems where I was a carpet cleaner, couldn't afford a haircut, showing up to networking events. Well, I was supposed to be confident and know what I was talking about, and I had a fast-growing company and all these things that I felt like I was saying. I just felt like I was such a fraud. But I'm a carpet cleaner. That's my identity. And sometimes we get wrapped up in our current environment. That's why I do all the time. Who am I right now? And we build our identity based on our current environment. Yet what you want to do is you want to build your identity internally, and it'll shift your external environment. So I started seeing who is the person I wanted to become. I said, well, I don't know if I want to be the President of the United States, but I would love to consult every major world leader. I want to figure out through my community how we can shift families and culture and then implement that in different people's countries. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how would that guy act? Somebody who has that position. And I started becoming that person now and shifting the world around me. Instead of allowing the world around me to define me, which was cleaning carpets, taking different elevators than everyone else. I had to be on these elevators that were only for the workers. I once almost got arrested going into a lobby of a high-rise in downtown because I wasn't allowed to be in that area because I was just a worker. And I show up there now because my friends live in these buildings. And oh, sir, come on the elevator. I was like, oh, you sure you don't want me to take the service elevator? I was just here 4 years ago, and you wouldn't let me get on the elevator with anyone. So I truly believe that her encouragement to me when I get off stage and I beat myself up and I feel bad, she's like, honey, you did amazing. You're making progress. And when the closest person to you is an encourager, because everyone else out there, everyone listening to this interview, you're like, oh, Nicholas, you're amazing. Thanks so much for the value. You speak so confidently. I want your drive. I want your ambition. Yet you don't see me when I'm in private. She sees me everywhere when I'm discouraged, down and out, when I feel bad, when I'm being pressured. And she still says, you're amazing. You've got what it takes. Never has she ever discouraged me, and never have either of us talked bad behind each other's back to other people. Ever, ever, ever. I always encourage her. She always encouraged me. We challenge each other. And we just know, like, when she encourages me, I know it's true because she knows every deep, dark secret. And that is so powerful. Because without that mentor, without that close person, you think people are lying because they don't see your deep, dark secrets and where you fail. So you're like, oh, you only know me when we show up at the office. You don't know what I do at home when I'm sad and down. She knows it all. She still encourages it. She still says I'm amazing. So when I walk out on stage, someone discourages me or says I'm amazing, I'm like, yeah, thanks, I'm amazing. I know it because she said. If you discourage me, I'm like, listen, I got mentors and my wife in my life that if that were true what you said, they'd let me know beforehand. So thank you. Keep your feedback to yourself.
That is awesome.
It's powerful.
I love that. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, so taking it back just a little bit. So before you make the $5,000 investment to the mastermind, did you guys have a mentor or any, like, what was your take on mentorship and did you have one during that time?
Yeah, so I actually, the year prior to that, I interned with a health coach. And so I knew that I wanted to do online health coaching. And so I met with this lady and she was like, I'll teach you how to do online health coaching and like, you'll be my intern and I'll groom you up. And I was like, okay, like what is this, world of internet marketing? I knew network marketing, what's internet marketing? And so that's, I learned a lot from her. And then I just started going to events, watching trainings. The reason we started our podcast was from like JLD. I became friends with him. And so I just like put myself out there and tried to learn from so many of these amazing people, about 5 years ago. And so not like paying a mentor or anything, but that's why I love like, YouTube and all of this stuff is there's so much amazing information out there that you can get. And so that's what I was doing. But at that time we were just like, I was trying to build the online health coaching side of things and taking, what I learned from all the internet marketers.
And I had one mentor since I was 18 that had invested in me a lot. And this was like where I worked out. So he's a Navy SEAL, still is a part of our community to this day.
Yeah.
And he was actually one of the biggest defining moments for me was that he almost became like my dad. I almost wanted that, like, someone to believe in me and all this stuff all over again. So I'm working out and he comes back from a deployment and I'm like talking big game. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be the best carpet cleaner and I'm gonna consult 10 carpet cleaning companies, take them to 7 figures, and then I'm gonna buy them all up in the recession. I'm gonna have the biggest carpet cleaning company in San Diego. I'm like talking big game, right? Total BS. And he looked at me and he said, looked at me, Nicholas, like, you haven't changed since I left. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm talking all this big game. And he noticed that I hadn't grown. And it just crushed me again. Except for I had changed, I'd grown since my dad crushed me. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm never going to allow him to say that to me again. Never do I ever want him to be able to say, like, you've stopped growing. So that's right around when she invested. And then I was like, I'm all in. And I just started pushing. I was like, I remember being 2016, we launched BDB. BDB's doing like 20K, 30K a month. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? June 2017, we're going to break $100,000 a month. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I just say that? Like, that's like 3 times what we're doing right now, 4 times what we're doing right now each month, maybe even more. And I just felt like, no one's going to be able to tell me that I'm not growing. So I started taking risks and going after. June, we did like 180,000 or something like that, 2017. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not, like, I actually did this thing. But I just remember that mentor, like, pushed me, but that investment in ourselves was for us. See, I look at money as like seed. So I saw that in that community there were successful people, but I saw this breakthrough. We saw that this community was going to give us, like, it was going to be our breakout time. And that money that we invested was for us, not for them to make money or anything.
Right.
It was for us saying, I believe in me, and I'm putting seed to reap a harvest and grow trees and pull fruit from this experience. I believe this is going to give me breakthrough. I'm putting money where my mouth is, because there's a quote that says, where your money is, your heart is also. So I was like, my heart's in it. My heart's in this breakthrough. It wasn't just the information. Sure, there was people, but that investment was the difference. Because you see people show up for free to places. My mentor, Russell Brunson, said that he allowed people to come to his inner circles, $50K a year. We're a part of it. And he allowed people to come for free. Friends, family, like people that were motivated. And he said that every single person that came for free, none of them have success. That he's ever allowed to come for free. But the people that invested, he has almost 100% success rate with people getting an ROI and growing a business. Everyone has to make $1 million a year in that group. So it's like a big deal. And I started asking myself, what's a better investment? $0 up front for no ROI, or $50,000 up front for a massive ROI? And that money is like, it puts your heart in the game. it's so seeds. A lot of times investments are more for us than the other people that we're paying.
Absolutely.
And I love the analogy about looking at it as seeds because it's
Yeah.
super big.
Yeah, I'm like spreading that.
Yeah.
Watering it.
Where do I want to grow? That's why I invest with Russell. I'm like, man, like that's a lot of money, but they already have this internet marketing game down. He's a phenomenal speaker,
Absolutely,
communicator, and he's a good
yes.
family man. I'm like, all right, like that's what I need breakthrough in. I suck at this. Here's the money. Here's a seed. Here's the commitment. Here's my heart's in it. Now let's learn and grow. Because we have a quote that says, some things are better caught than taught. See, you can learn things through your brain, but the best things like you catch and hear. This is why when you get around people, you pick up their speech, their language, the way that they flow, the way that they talk, their mannerisms, their daily habits and routines when you're around them. Pick them up. That's why all friends have like inside jokes, or they make the same mannerisms. Like I know people that have like little twitches like this, and every one of their little mentees, like they all like have that same twitch. I'm like, you don't learn that. That's like picked up from
Yeah,
being in the
yeah.
environment. So I wanted to put myself in that like that pot, that stirring pot, and I wanted to like soak and marinate in there, get all these people's giftings and all that kind of stuff.
So looking back at that $5,000, would you do it again?
Oh,
Well,
1000%.
Dude,
I
if
wish
we
that I
didn't
would
do
have
that-
gotten to an event like that earlier.
Yeah.
Because then it would have happened earlier.
Because I know that's a struggle today where there's a lot of masterminds, a lot of mentorships, and a lot of them do charge $5, $10, $50, $25, even
Yeah.
$100,000.
Yeah.
So what do you say to that? Let's say that youth, that young adult that is looking for that they know they have a bigger purpose in their life, but they only have $2,000, $5,000 in the bank, and they're questioning, should I take that leap of faith? Should I invest in a mentor? Should I invest in a mastermind?
I would say always do it if you're going to take massive action. You know, I think a lot of people think that if they just invest the money, it's like a lottery ticket or something and it'll make them successful. No mastermind will actually make you successful. You're the only person that's going to make you successful. That will help you for sure, make it happen faster. So I'm always the proponent, take a risk, you know, invest in yourself and believe that you can actually do it. But don't ever think that someone else is going to put in the work for you, because they're never going to. And those people that join those groups that think that, oh, this person's going to make me successful, they always end up failing. And the people that are like, no, they actually go in there, they apply it, they freaking do the work, they listen to their mentors and implement, they're the ones that become successful. And you're like, how did you do it? You know, and then, you know, they're the ones on stage.
My mentor, Russell Brunson, he says that once you put your success on someone else, you automatically fail. A lot of times people invest because they're like trying to get other people to make them successful. Or again, they buy it because they think, if I buy this, then it'll work. And they're just buying into the dream of it. They're not using the tool. Yet, again, realize that everything that I'm talking about, every story I'm talking about, was once a really depressing, bad moment. Those create the best stories for other people. So when we invested the 5K, I always tell people, is that a good investment or a bad investment? Like, well, look at where you're at today. Like, Tony Robbins mentioned you on his webinar thing or whatever, and all these things. And look at where your family you've created. I'm like, okay. But when I first did it, like 6 months into it, I had no ROI. We hadn't met yet. And people were trying to get me to refund. People were like, he's not even that cool of a guy. You know, like, give us your money and we'll help you out. Like, you know, he hasn't helped you that. It's so messed up. But like, I didn't want a refund, right? Because it was just against like what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I showed up, and if I wouldn't have shown up there, my life would have never changed. But the smart thing to do was, I was a broke carpet cleaner. The smart thing to do would have been not spent the money. Like, that was scary. I didn't know that it was going to work. I just like stuck with it, and if it wasn't for that moment, I would have never known what would have happened. I would still be carpet cleaning this day probably, or doing some form of it. So that shifted my life forever, but it wasn't like I was all gung-ho and excited about it. It was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And if it does, then great. You know what I mean? Like, it was a really hard moment. It wasn't simple. So for anyone out there, it's like, yeah, take action. Get the, like, there's different ways. There's time you can invest and money that you can invest in mentors. I did both. Like, I went to San Clemente. I surfed in the middle of the night with the first mentor I wanted to have. I was the only one that showed up. I got stuck in the ocean for 5 hours. And that's how I built my relationship with him. Jay Abraham, I had one client that I met in a VIP section of an event. He then bought for me a $1,000 program. He's 17 years old. I did an extra phone call with him to help him with his relationship. And then he invited me to a dinner in LA with some guy named Jay Abraham, who's some marketing legend. I didn't know who he was. And I drove 4 hours in traffic to meet at this dinner. And I mirrored everything he did. I ordered all the same food. I drank all the same drinks. I had the conversations. And then he said, Nicholas, come to my office. I took the opportunity. And then he mentored us and spoke at our event. It's a $100,000 mentorship, and he didn't personally charge me. He just asked for like a favor. And so when I look at that, like I took action, and I didn't just try to like buy my way in. It's kind of lazy. I was at an event as well with Grant Cardone. Someone bought a Skype call for 15 minutes for $6,500 around there. And so then I'm in a VIP section, in a VIP ticket, and Grant Cardone comes to the bar with his wife and another guy, and I was like, hey, put all their stuff is on my bill, put on my tab. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. We talked for 45 minutes. I got the bill back. It was $108. And I was like, 45 minutes, my wife and his wife, and like we're all talking together 45 minutes because I was creative and I showed up differently. Like, again, none of it's about like, no one owes you anything. Like, continually show up, continually give value, continually pour in. Yeah, sometimes you can invest money to make it go quicker. Yet it's always going to take you going all in.
That momentum.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think too, in terms of like, if you don't have the money, a lot of people go to college, they get student loans. So I think for us, we just really thought about investing in our personal development as like, this is like our college, this is our learning. And so you have to also separate business expenses from personal expenses because they're different. And you have to be willing to take risks and go in debt. I mean, I don't think that a lot of people would be where they are without debt. And I think if you can use it for good, no hotel would be built without debt. So
Definition of entrepreneur is starting a business or businesses taking on more than normal financial risk in order to do so. So people should know. And I think that for everyone out there that doesn't want to do that or they feel scared right now, then quit. And if I tell them to quit, like you should stop doing business. Stop going on. Stop that. If you're not willing to take the risk, then just stop. Go do something else. And if that frustrates you and makes you go all in, then thank me later. and if you quit and you go do something else, then thank me as well. It's not an easy road to go down, and you don't have to do it. See, I always think about, okay, we got told to go to college, get a job, work for 40 years or whatever, and like retire, which never really happens, and all this stuff. Yet so many people fall into entrepreneurship the same exact way, which is not making their own decision. Like being an entrepreneur now is almost becoming the normal. Oh, like you get out of school and then you sling some things and then you go start a business and like people just start going through the motions, and I'm like, no, make your own decisions, go all in if you want to. And there's been like a progression. I met with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I was cleaning carpets and I was trying to start a coaching business. And I was getting advice from him, and he was just like, stop making this so complicated. Make a decision, go all in, and if it doesn't work, you can change it. So if you're single out there right now, take as much risk as you can. If you have a relationship, then maybe you have to take a little bit less risk and mitigate it. If you have a whole family, then it's probably not smart to spend all of your freaking life savings on hoping that something will happen. Go build the skills. Like, don't get rich quick. Go get rich for sure, which is where the mentors come in. Like, people that have done it before.
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
I always tell my guys, like, I don't want you to get rich quick. Like, I want you to get rich for sure. The process that it takes to build the skill sets to add value, and money will always follow value, and value is solving more problems for more people or bigger problems.
Yeah. And guys, you heard it from Nicholas, you heard it from Amanda. Mentorship is very, very important. It's what's going to help you get to the next level. It's going to cut your learning curve in half. If you don't have a mentor and you're seeking one, I highly recommend that you get around these people. They're very, very powerful. Just their energy, it's great. If you're also looking for capital, but you don't have the means, you have a dream, but you just don't have that money, think big, work small. He's a great mastermind. His name is David Albanese. I want you to follow him right now at Think Big, Work Small. That's Think Big, Work Small.
That is awesome. So with the Unbreakables, we do play a game here, okay? So we're going to ask you two questions. Actually,
So
the
excited.
deck is.
Deck's asking.
Okay, so we're not asking, the deck is.
Okay.
So
Who answers what? I pick them out?
Oh, actually, since you guys are both here, you guys are both going to pick two. So
Cool.
you'll
Okay.
read off of it, and then you can answer accordingly.
Okay, cool.
So.
And you can go on to the next card if you don't like the question.
Dang, I'm going for 4. Do I get to look at them or no?
Absolutely.
Oh
Absolutely.
my goodness.
No such thing as coincidence, by the way.
Okay. Alright, I'll go first. So this says, if you lived without influence of others, what would your life look like? I think my life would look very similar to what it is right now. Because I have definitely let go of what, if you live without influence of others. So like kind of like people pleasing, I'm guessing this is what it's saying. I think it would look what I'm looking right now, because A lot of people did not want me to get married at 18. A lot of people thought that I was crazy being an entrepreneur, and especially and also living out here in California. So I think I've broken a lot of those things that other people wanted for me.
But the positive influences have been really good.
Yeah.
That's why she's getting on YouTube. That's why her makeup's done right now. So she's going to do a YouTube video after this.
That is true. I am getting on YouTube. So I'm excited.
My first one is, whose standards are you living up to? And the answer for me personally is that the standards that I'm living up to is, I believe that God created me and he put a destiny on the inside of me, and there's a potential on the inside of me that he's created. And so my standards are the standards that he set for me. I'm always trying to discover like who is the best version of myself and not allow other people's standards. Because again, when you try to please everyone, like you're going to end up pleasing no one. And so for me, I'm always making sure like, do I have like, am I setting my own standards and am I discovering like who I'm supposed to be and how can I consistently compete with myself and raise that bar?
So this says, what thought did you have in the last 24 hours that surprised you? So I'm a Scorpio. My birthday is in 5 days. And yeah, I had an interesting phone call with some tax lady yesterday, California. Ridiculous. Anyway, I realized that I do not want anger issues to go on to my baby. So I have realized that hormones in pregnancy is definitely intense, and I need to get a little bit better about controlling my anger, especially towards tax people.
Death and taxes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we had to pay money that like was a mistake. It wasn't really, it was our fault for not looking into it, but it was a team member's mistake and whatnot. And so our mistake, yet she was so mad. And it wasn't even that significant. I thought it was like 20 times as much as what she was paying. And she was so mad. So I can attest. Like,
At least you could own up to it though.
Yeah, and then it makes you realize like, okay, my attitude and my actions are going to affect another person, because they, kids look up to their parents. So I'm like, how do I want to respond to situations like this in the future? So that was a good eye opener.
Mine is, what family tradition do you enjoy the most? It's a really good question, because I've always been into family traditions, but I found that in America we don't have that many long family traditions. So I would say the biggest thing that I love is people taking off and getting together during the holidays. It's always like Thanksgiving and Christmas that everyone gets together, and our love language, both of us, is quality time. So I love that tradition of getting together, and yeah, I wish we did it more, yet that'd probably be the only thing. I didn't really have tons of traditions growing up. I learned like, put your fork here and your knife here or something like that. That was about it. Don't be excused from the table if you want to go use the restroom. And like, I didn't understand that whatsoever.
But it's
eat
awesome.
your vegetables.
There you
It's a
go.
big one.
But at least you guys are able to create those together.
Yeah.
So for our audience out there, let's just say couples that are doing business together. What advice would you give relationships?
The first one is definitely define your roles, because you're not supposed to do the same job. You're not supposed to be the same person. And so, it's okay that you're different, and celebrate those differences, and, own what your role is in the company. And, I struggle with this, not taking things personal, in business, but at the end of the day, it's like, you're doing business. So, just getting the job done, you know what I mean? But I think, communication, over communicate everything. What works for one couple might not work for you. And so, for us, we have just, clearly defined, we like traveling together. And so for us, that's what we have to do. But there's, like Gary Vee out there, never travels with his wife. And a lot of business guys never travel with their wife. And so we're like, okay, this is something that we're going to protect. And that's what we're really passionate about. But other couples are like, it's okay, you can like travel and be away from me for 5 days and I don't mind. For us, that would not work, it just wouldn't. So.
Yeah, this works for people that are inside of a relationship
Right.
and work together, or outside of it. The first thing is, we define a power couple as two people that have two different visions. They create one like-minded vision and use their skills, talents, and abilities together to be able to get there. So that could look like not being in business together, because again, the business is supposed to be there to fuel the life. You build the business around your life, not your life around your business. So if that's true, then what we're doing is we're using the business as a tool to create the life and the vision that we have. So many of our guys reach out to us and say, Nicholas, my wife isn't on board, they're maybe low risk, a school teacher, a nurse, or these different things that are very much about helping people and not so much about conquering the world and taking
Making
big
money.
risks. Yeah, and not about making money. So like, how can I get them enrolled? They don't have these goals and ambitions. They don't want to do meetings with me. Like, yeah, like they don't understand like why. So why not learn about what, no matter what side you're on, learn about their goals. Say, hey, you know, we obviously wouldn't want our kids to stop dreaming at 35 or
Right.
40 years old. So we should probably be an example. So like, if we could do anything, what would you love to do? Those are good questions to start with. Then they start dreaming and not thinking like, this is what I want to do. Can you help with this? Are you going to be a part of this? Like, I want a plane or all this stupid stuff. Figure out what they want and then figure out how you can build like this vision together and show how the business and the life and what you're doing is getting to that point. They're like, man, I would love to be able to go to Mexico once a year. That's such a great goal. Like, we should write that down and figure out how we could get there. Oh my goodness, like if we did this together in the business, we'd be able to get there. So I feel that inside of the business, inside of life, having two visions and creating one and using skills, talents, and abilities to get there, even if they're not business related, so that every decision is going towards something. And why I say that is because we do a live event every year in June, and it's called BDB Live. And the 30 days leading up to it, I'm always like working really hard, and I don't usually get to go to bed with Amanda. So if every day I didn't go to bed with her, that's rude. Like she could get really upset by that.
Right.
Yet we communicate about it because we understand where we're going, why I'm doing what I'm doing, that it's getting us to this vision. And now she goes to bed at night going, oh my goodness, I know why he's doing it. I know what he's doing and what he's doing it for. And so now she goes to bed happy thinking, I'm so proud of him. I can't believe that he's doing this for us. But the same action uncommunicated would actually result in frustration. You don't love me, I'm not sexy anymore, like whatever these conversations would be, right? So I think that communication on what you're doing and why you're doing it and how it goes towards that big vision
It's really
is
important.
huge in the business. And
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicholas, in the modern day businessman, success without sacrifice, you talk about your journey, you talk about helping, you're pretty much shaping character. You're showing people how to break habits, you're showing them, giving them awareness. Can you tell some of the viewers at home what was the motivation behind the book and what you want them to get out of the book?
Yeah, so the motivation was that there's a lot of guys that invest $20,000, $50,000, $150,000 a year to be a part of what we do. And I was like, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars now in personal development, school of hard knocks, missed opportunities, mentorships. I've been able to be around some of the most high-level performers in the world. I bring in some of the highest level performers in the world. I've been able to like take all these notes and interview people just like you guys are doing here. And I was like, man, like how could I make a bigger impact? How could I reach more people that maybe aren't in a spot? Because I was in Mexico and we were on vacation. And in Mexico, I think they said they were making $5 or $12 a day or something like that.
Yeah. The
And-
workers
yeah,
in the
like-
hotel.
And then the rest were like little tips that they would get. And so everyone's working their face off because they're basically getting paid nothing and living off tips. And I remember giving them a book and we slipped like $20 bills in the books. And like their face and their excitement and their hunger to learn. And I thought like, you know, a lot of people have to invest money because they need that like skin in the game. Yet all these people that like couldn't afford to go get all these mentors that I got hundreds of thousands of dollars, all these things that I've learned from my mentors and Yost and my Navy SEAL mentor and these life experiences and a great dad mentor that I had that I didn't know was going to be like so powerful for me. So how could I put it in a book and basically tell the world, like anyone even listening, like if you go to Amazon and grab the book and you can't afford it for $10.75, have it like almost at cost, then just email us or send us a message, DM me, and we'll buy you a book. Like, I wanted it to kind of like no excuse to be able to hear like what actually matters. There's a lot of billionaires out there that Tony Robbins interviewed that none of them are happy. Right? There's a lot of people out there that they go through this constant roller coaster of, okay, I need to go work more so I can make more money. And then they lose their family along the way and their health. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get my family and my health back. So they go work on their family and their health. And then their business starts going down. And they're like, oh my goodness, every time I focus on the things that I care about, it loses the thing that makes my family happy. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to spend time with my family and then make less money? But then they're upset because we don't have enough money. Or am I supposed to make more money and then not spend time with my family? And then they're upset I'm never there. It's like, I'm never going to win. But like, who cares about living? And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. There's a way you can create habits and routines and communication and actually create where your actions create more wealth for you in this market. And so $300,000, put into a little tiny book that you can read in like a weekend.
Yeah.
So that was my goal.
And the reviews are amazing. You're helping a ton of people. I'm digging into it right now, man. Thank you so much. And that's why I said you're gonna be an amazing father, because I know that your character says it all. It's not the words, man. The words are just a bonus. But what it is what you look at
Thanks.
and everything that how you're living. I want to say thank you guys again. We did not expect to interview the power couple today. We came for Nicholas, but you know what? It was just an amazing experience, guys.
Yeah, we really
Thank
truly
you.
appreciate you guys and what you guys are doing. We can see it's not just words, it's you guys are speaking from the hearts, and it's really impactful, very inspiring to us to even go out there with even more momentum, especially having our partners involved, brother and sister, building a business, like we're inspired.
So cool.
Before anything, we have to ask you, what's next?
What's next?
Besides a baby.
Besides the baby, we're just excited to keep expanding the mission, and I think for me, like what I do in the company is just helping Nicholas get out there even more with social media and providing value. And so really for us, it's just how can we expand the influence, and from that, our biggest things that bring the most transformation for our clients is through live events. And so we're going to continue with that and probably be putting on a lot more live events and trainings in person, because that's where I feel like people want that community, that in-person connection.
Yeah, a lot of men are really lonely out there right now. I just talk about men because I'm like,
You can
that's what I
relate.
relate.
Mhm.
And when I first started coaching, for people to know, like, I didn't want to talk to people's wives or stuff like that, talk about their husband or something, and talk like crap about them, and then I had to be the one on the phone. I'm like, I don't want anyone coming and attacking me in the home. I'm gonna work with men. So, the big thing is like a lot of loneliness, and then we've changed so many households. I thought like, if you can change one house, then you have proof of concept. And we've been able to change businesses like Douglas James, great examples, in the military, had a girlfriend, was uncommitted, was like, didn't know what to do, had a small business on the side doing a couple $100,000 a year, which is amazing that he had done that. He joined the Brotherhood, and then in the first 3 months, he made $830,000. It got to the point where he created a multi-million-dollar business where he was like asking the military, can I please like get out and build this business? He's building it from like 7 p.m. to like 12 in the morning. And then actually proposed to his girlfriend. I was in the wedding, and now they have a baby girl, and like the shift of how their life is being done inside of that house is completely different. He grew up in a house that wasn't great, didn't have a good example, and he can tell his story, but it was like really intense. And now to be able to change that inside of his household and show up differently, that was so powerful to me. So our goal is to continually get that message out to, again, shift the whole world in one generation. So I love, like, I have all these other guys invest in what we do, but I love giving back to these younger people over here because, oh my goodness, like if I had that mentor, it'd be so crazy. So our goal is to consistently like up-level everything we're doing to change more homes, cities, states, countries, consult the major world leaders, and help the youth.
Yeah, and it's happening right now. For anyone who wants to connect with you guys, where can they reach you guys as far as the YouTube channel, Instagram, all of your social media?
Yeah, Instagram, Nicholas Bayerle, Instagram, Amanda Bayerle as well.
Yep. And then if you want to pick up a copy of the Modern Day Businessman as well, definitely tag us and we'll share it out, and maybe we'll send you something special.
And for anyone that's interested in joining the $1 Billion Body, how can they join that?
Yeah, the best way to do it again is just to follow us on Instagram because that's where everything goes down. But you go to billiondolarbody.com, you can Google it, you can type in BDB anywhere, and it's going to pop up. You guys said we have stuff all over the place. And the
We
majority,
have a podcast as well. Forgot about that one.
so but again, grab the book. It's like the best entry level. Almost everything we do is application only because we want to make sure we can create transformation. But we have so much free stuff out there. So Google us and jump in on Instagram. I'd love to see those DMs.
Thank you guys so much for having us again.
Absolutely. We are very honored and privileged, and thank you again for inviting us to your lovely studio. It's amazing. And again, you guys are doing great things. Keep it up, and we're very honored.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.